Welcome to Multifamily Grit, where we bring in the experts to share their stories of the celebrations and struggles of one of the most important industries in the U.S., multifamily property management. I'm joined today by Kevin Owens, a seasoned multifamily executive with over 20 years of property management experience across the U.S. Kevin currently serves as the president of property management at RKW Residential, where he's driving operational excellence and platform growth in partnership with Alfred, a tech-forward company focused on transforming the resident experience. Before joining RKW, Kevin held senior roles across both Class A and Value Add communities, where he was known for his strategic leadership, ability to optimize asset performance, and consistent success in refining operational processes. He recently made the move from RPM to RKW after finding the vision and passion he was looking for after meeting Alfred's co-founder and co-CEO, Jess Beck. Today, we're digging into how Kevin is integrating technology and people operations the right way, why he believes in starting innovation at the user level, and how RKW is scaling with intention, organically and through M&A opportunities. We'll also explore Alfred's evolution from in-home services to a full-stack resident engagement platform, and why creating a Ritz Carlton experience is the key to stopping the industry's race to the bottom. This is a conversation about growth, integration, and what it takes to truly differentiate in multifamily today. But before we get started, we're sponsored today by the only core property management operating system built with an emphasis for affordable owners and operators. Fortress revolutionizes affordable management with features focused on automating housing assistance charges and payments to keep ledgers clean and accurate, centralizing file reviews and document storage through a relationship with Fortress and AWS, and a free in-system smart waitlist to ensure your property stays in compliance. And don't forget, if you like what you hear today, please like, subscribe, and share with someone you think would enjoy this episode. So, Kevin, I honestly can't thank you enough for being here with me today. You and I have had random interactions throughout my experience in real estate for the past probably 5-8 years. And they've just been incredible. So I'm very honored that you are taking the time to be on the podcast with me today.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I've watched you and watched what you've done in every aspect of your career, and it's been great to watch. And so I appreciate the opportunity to join you.
Oh, thank you. And it's so fun because I feel like you and I are both so passionate about technology, which I'm a technology combined with property management and people. And so I'm so excited to dig into that today with you. And before we get started, though, I'd love for you to share with our guests how you got your start in the industry.
You know, it's one of my favorite topics to talk to people about because there's so many varied ways people get into this. I don't know that mine's as exciting as others, but it is unique. I'm going to go way back and try to do it briefly, but when I was growing up, my father owned and operated a general contracting company. And so when I was 12 years old, I started working for him, cleaning properties. I was the gopher. And if you've ever understood what gopher is, it really means you're being told to go for this, go for that, go get this. And so I was the gopher for the team. And I worked with him through every break in school, summers, all the way through college. Learned a lot about people, learned a lot about customers and customer focus and all those kind of fun things. But I also, rebelled a little bit, and I'm not going into that. I'm not going to real estate. I'm not going into construction. I'm going to do something completely different. And so I graduated with a degree in psychology. And for 6 years, I was a program director at a psychiatric hospital. Yes. And when I tell people that, I get one of two reactions. I get one reaction that says, how in the world did you get from psychiatric hospital to multifamily real estate? And the other reaction is, I can see how you got from psychiatric hospital to multifamily real estate. And so it's a people business, and certainly there's, psychology is based around the individual and understanding the individual. And I think that served me very well. But I went from psychiatric hospitals directly into senior housing first. And so I spent 6 years in senior housing and then transitioned into more traditional multifamily. So it's been a little bit of an interesting road, but I think it's been a road that was perfectly paved for me, and it's worked out really well. And I'm thrilled with my career and kind of where it's landed me and the opportunities I've had, and it's been fantastic.
Yeah, I love that story so much. I really love that when you said that you studied psychology, I was like, oh, this makes total sense now. And then when you said that you was a director of a psychiatric hospital, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense, because I ironically, I said this to you right before we started the podcast. I've always admired your demeanor
Yeah.
always. Like you are always so calm, but not in a like not in like the laid back way. It's a very like calm, passionate presence. And like I know that it's very clear that you're getting shit done and you're moving things forward, but you're doing it with like a really solid energy. That's probably the best word I could use to describe you, is just you
It,
have an incredible energy.
I appreciate that a lot. It's been a work in progress. I haven't always been that way. I've learned over the years to do what works in the situations in which I find myself. And I believe strongly that a calm demeanor is a strong characteristic for leadership.
Yeah.
When things are going awry, when the shit hits the fan, when chaos happens, it's the calm demeanor, it's the calm urgency, but still a calm
Yeah.
urgency that I
Yeah.
think prevails. And when people are losing their mind or anxiety creeps in, to have someone to look to that isn't having that happen, I think is really important. And so whether things are going really well or whether things are not going really well, I think calmness, it matters a lot. It doesn't mean that there's not internal thunderstorms happening. I'm
Yeah.
thinking and feeling just like people everywhere do, but I think it's really important to not have that exude into the external and have people kind of observe that.
I love that calm urgency. Like
Yeah.
there is such a way to have calm urgency. And I'm such a firm believer that if we can, when we have that internal thunderstorm that's happening, if we can just create a little bit of space and put some perspective into the situation where you can either, compare it to globally the reality of how bad your situation is, 9 times out of 10, you can really easily say whatever's happening right
Yes.
now, it's not that bad. Like
Yes.
relative to the world, it is not that bad.
Yeah.
Or number two, turning it around and actually seeing it as advantageous, whether you look at it like, you know what, that's job security, or you look at it like, I'm so lucky that I'm in a position where I get to be a part of solving this big problem. I think how you frame it in your head can really change the energy that you bring to it.
I couldn't agree more. I think there's a couple of things that work for me. One, I think finding some way to, I think the term these days is center yourself, or, whatever that term is that you use, but whether
Yeah.
it's, working out or a
Yeah.
sport or a hobby or
Yeah.
family or friends or whatever that is, find that kind of thing that you can go to when things are going a little awry that can help bring you back to reality. But to your point, I encourage people to think in terms of, in 1 year, you're going to look back on this. What are you going to think? Are you going to
Yeah.
think it wasn't that big of a deal? We made it through that. Or are you going to think, holy crap? If it's a holy crap, then let's figure it out. Let's deal with it. But if
Yeah.
it's something that you're going to look back on and think it was just another day, then sometimes that can help you kind of calm yourself and realize, you know what? Let's just get through this. We'll figure it out. It's not as bad as I think it is.
Yeah. I love that. Thinking about it, like, how am I going to look back on this in a year? And
Yeah.
then using that to reframe kind of the energy you put into it.
And I admit it's easier said than done.
Oh,
I mean, when
yeah.
you're going through it, it's easier said than done. But it works. It just does.
Yeah.
And so if you can train yourself to really focus on that and deal with it in those terms, I think you'll help yourself a lot.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And I think so often we think that the way our minds operate is just something we have to deal with, and it's not. I mean, you can train it just like you go
100%.
to the gym and change the way
Exactly
how
right.
much strength you have in your arms. Like you can absolutely change your mentality by being
That's
intentional.
exactly right. Yeah, exactly right.
But you said, and I'm so sorry I'm digging into this, but when you started with psychology, and I was like, oh, that makes so much sense with your energy. Now I'm here, and we're gonna take a
Let's
minute.
go.
We're detoured. You said you haven't always been this way. Was there something? Was there a catalyst that changed for you?
That's a really good question. So, I take, personality inventories. I like to take them just to kind of see. And one of the ones I've taken is the Strength Finders test.
Yeah.
You may have done that. You may have heard
Yes.
that. My number one strength is competitiveness.
Okay.
And so I'm not surprised by that, because
Wow.
growing up, I was heavily into sports and I hated to lose, and I didn't take losses well. And I think
Okay.
those two things are separate. I think hating to lose can be a core characteristic that is fine, but losing poorly is not a characteristic you want. I had
Mhm.
both. And so over time, the not taking losses well caught up with me, and it impacted relationships. It impacted opportunities for the next sport or the next season. And so I started getting penalized, or I found consequences coming my way for not dealing with things the right way. Not that I was too competitive, that's fine, but because I just wasn't handling things. I would let, anger and frustration and temper tantrums. And I mean, you see it all the time in sports these days. You see it on the professional basketball court sometimes where something will happen and people go off the handle. That was me a lot. And so because I started having some bad things happen, or not having good things happen because of that, it caused me to kind of take an inventory and think to myself, maybe I'm not doing something right here. And so over time, I can't say it was one specific thing, but over time, I began to understand the impact of my decisions and how I chose to react to losses that I didn't love, and that's fine, but how I reacted to them needed to change. And when I started changing that reaction and how I responded to those losses, things went much better. And so I think it was almost, to use a psychological term, a Pavlov experience where I changed the reaction and my circumstances changed, and I connected those two dots, even if subconsciously, and begin the path in the right direction. So when I started in my career and leadership opportunities started coming up, it really helped me understand better how to deal with people, because I would watch them sometimes react poorly. And I would be reminded that used to be me, and what did I do, and how is it different for me? And so it gave me something to talk to people about and help them understand what it could be like if they chose to go in a different direction. So it's kind of been an evolving thing for me. And so I'm still not perfect by any means. I don't think I ever will be, but I'm very different today than I was then, for sure.
Oh my goodness. I love that story. And I think that is such a reaffirming story about the value of taking those sort of tests. I would actually share, I had a very similar experience. I took the Strengths Finder, and I found out that my strength was my sense of responsibility. So I carry this like massive responsibility chip. And when I dug into, the pros and cons of that being my greatest strength, like through that book, I realized it was also one of my biggest weaknesses. And because I was constantly taking responsibility and ownership of tasks that I should have been allowing my team to have the opportunity to accomplish. Or like I was frustrated with my husband. He'll laugh when he listens to this. But I was very frustrated with my husband about things he wasn't like getting done around the house. And his response would be like, you always get it done so quickly. Like, I'm not as quick as you are. Like, either you let me do it or don't get pissed at me that you did it first. Like, but I just have this overwhelm. So very similar to you, like learning that, I was like, whoa, okay. Like, I can either, continue to allow this to be a hindrance in my life, or I can like take a step back and see what I'm doing here and try to train. And I'm still not perfect. I still get mad. So every once in a while when I empty the dishwasher because he hasn't done it yet, and it's not fair. but yeah, I think understanding those things about yourself and giving yourself the space to learn and know those things to make improvements is so incredible.
One of the truths that I've learned and discovered, and this book is a great example of that, is even your greatest strengths can, to your point, become weaknesses if they go too far. And so it's that balance that you're trying to find. I'll tell you that, with the getting things done around the house, I tell my wife all the time, just give me a timeline. Just tell me when. By when do you need this done?
Give me a
deadline.
That
way there's no confusion. If you want it done now, say, would you do this now, please? But if I've got some time, then just tell me I've got some time, because
I love
this
it.
can be confusing.
I love it. Oh, that's so great. Okay, well, I really appreciate you allowing me to go down this little rabbit hole with you. That's such a great story of how you found your way into the industry and the track that you took. And like I said, not surprised at all. Although, funny story I will share with you. I actually worked with my dad a little bit growing up too, even when I was fairly young and then through college. But my dad owned an automotive shop. So I worked there. So I would change brakes and tires and
great.
And even, so I'm with you. I understand being a gopher for your father that's a whole
great start.
situation.
You learn a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Tested our relationship from time to time, but but we're great now.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, so during the introduction, I mentioned that recently, and I'd love to dig into this because I'm really interested in what you're doing today with RKW. But you recently left RPM where you had been for a while, and decided to make the change and kind of jump in with RKW. And I'd love for you to talk about why you chose to go to RKW,
Yeah.
and what it is about that company that has brought someone as amazing as you in this industry to join that team.
So I'll start with some kudos to RPM. When someone hears you leave somewhere and go somewhere else, there's sometimes connotations that come about. And I'll tell you, I still talk to Jason Berkowitz. I still communicate with him, text with
Great guy.
him, talk to him at conferences when we see each other, and a lot of team members. My daughter still works for RPM Living. So
Okay.
I've got real connections there, and really appreciate the opportunities I had there, and the growth I experienced as we did at
Yeah.
RPM. And so when I decided to leave, I actually initially left to determine what I wanted to do. I didn't go straight to RKW. I left to try to figure out, did I want to do something different? And so for about almost a year, I did consulting work. I did leadership coaching. I
Oh, wow.
worked with a few companies that were, for example, bringing or wanting to bring management in-house as an owner operator, and kind of helping them plan that out. I did a few things like
Great.
that, and just realized that I didn't want to do that long term because I missed being a part of a team. I miss working with other people to accomplish a goal versus working as a solo entrepreneur,
Yeah.
and not having
Okay.
other people to kind of share that goal with me and achieve things
I get
together.
that.
So
Yeah.
I started considering other options, and Jess Beck, who was the co-CEO, co-founder of Alfred, reached out to me. Alfred had purchased RKW, the management platform there at RKW, about 2 years before, and were looking at some transition planning and things like that. And so reached out to me to talk about the options that might be on the table to consider for me joining that organization. And the first conversation we had, it was a funny story, it was via Zoom, and it was while I was in Mexico on not a honeymoon, but anniversary vacation with my wife. And so when she reached out, she said, "Are you available?" And I said, "Well," and I talked to my wife, of course. I talked to her and I said, "Here's what's going on. Here's the timing. Are you okay with this?" And she said, "As long as I can stay by the pool with my drink, then I'm fine. You go do what you got to do." And so she did. I
Love
went.
it.
We had a great conversation with Jess, and just the energy and connection we felt early on
Yeah.
felt right. Of course, one conversation is not the end all be all, but it felt right, and it caused me to continue the process. I met several great people at RKW, including Marcy Williams, who was the current president CEO at the time, and just kind of fell in love with the culture, fell in love with the vision, fell in love with what was not only happening currently, but what the plan and future looked like at RKW. And it matched what I wanted. I wanted a fresh start where I could help build something new. We had had such great success at RPM. I wanted to do it again, and to do it the right way, of course, but to do it again. And so that conversation was the starting point of I guess, a 30-day-ish get to know each other time, where we met several times via virtually like this. I flew to New York and met with the team there, and just had an opportunity to really dive into what their goals were, vision was, and how it aligned with what I wanted to do. And so that's the impetus and got us started. And so back in September of last year, September 2024, about 9 months ago, we kicked it off, and it's been a great ride since.
Oh, I love it. So, I want to dig in a little bit on a few of those things. So, you said that the culture and the vision really just fit. What is that culture and vision at RKW?
That's a great question, and it's sometimes hard to define. So let me do my
Yeah.
best. Sometimes it's a gut feel, and for me initially, that's what it was. It was a gut feel,
I
and
get that.
the things I was looking for, and still am looking for, and want to help create, is an environment where, yes, there's a focus on innovation and technology and the implications that come from all of that,
Yep.
and that is based on people. And
Yeah.
so the culture has to be focused on what can we do to make the jobs of our people, the environment within which our people work, their career paths exactly how we want it to be. to give the opportunities to those people in today's world and in their future that they're looking for, and serve customers and clients extremely well.
Yeah.
All that's kind of got to go together to me to be the ideal culture. And so that's what I discovered in those conversations with Jess and with others as I continued down that path. And that's what I have found here at RKW. Again, back to just like I said, when talking about personally, we're not perfect by any means. We
Yeah.
stumble, we make mistakes. We're we're working hard to continue to grow and innovate fast. Our mantra is innovate fast and fix it if we don't do it right the first time, rather than just kind of analysis by paralysis, or analysis
Love it.
paralysis. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's let's go quickly and fix it as we go. And so I love that mantra. I love the thought of figuring out how we do things and how we want to do things and just going for it the right way, but going for it. And that's what culture has come to mean to me. And so it fits really well with what I love and value. And I think it's going to be something that long term is going to be a fantastic opportunity for me and for a lot of other people too.
Yeah, I think you did a great job defining that culture. And I really love what you were mentioning with you integrating like the technology is so important, obviously, with Alfred being a tech house. So obviously it's so important, but it's meaningless if you don't integrate it well with the people.
100%.
And
100%.
so, obviously that's a huge part of RKW and Alfred's plans for the future. But how are you doing that? How are RKW and Alfred really ensuring that they're integrating the people and the technology in the right way?
I think there's a few things we're doing specifically, in a broader context. It's just making sure that everybody we bring on the team has the same belief system, that's how it
Okay.
should be done. And so that's the start, because if we've got key leaders who don't buy into that vision and that belief system, it's going to be really tough to make it happen. So that's a big part of it. More tactically, I think we do a few things that are important to make sure that we do the best we can in ensuring this happens. One is we start at the user level.
I
When we
love
roll
this.
technology out, sometimes, things roll downhill, and
Hmm.
when they roll downhill, sometimes they run over people and things. And so we try to start with the people that are actually going to be implementing and using this technology on a daily basis. And so we have
Yeah.
roundtable discussions. We involve people at various levels of the organization in conversations with regard to our thoughts, our beliefs, our new thing that we want to try, to get their feedback. What problem are we trying to solve? Is it a problem worth solving, or is there a completely different way to do it? If we're trying to solve the problem, are we going to create more problems because of it? And that involvement by the user level and their immediate supervisory level is really important. So I think that's one big thing. The second thing is our implementation process has to be pristine. It has to be planned well, it has to be rolled out well, it has to be trained well, and it has to be coached well on an ongoing basis. And so those are things that we focus on regularly to ensure that every step of that process happens exactly how it's supposed to, that the right people are involved in every stage of that process. And the third thing is there's the follow-up piece and the debrief piece. If things that we wanted to accomplish aren't accomplished, what do we need to do to fix that and make sure it's
Hmm.
happening the right way? If things went really well, why did they go really well? What can we learn from it to do next time to make sure that goes really well as well? And then the fourth, and we don't have this come up often, but the fourth is, if it doesn't work, kill it. We
Yeah.
we can't be afraid to stop something that we thought was going to work because it doesn't. We can't have such pride of ownership that we are unwilling to change something that's just not working, and quote unquote go down with the ship. It just doesn't make sense to do that. Technology is changing so fast. If we get locked in on something that's not working really well, we're going to miss an opportunity somewhere else. And so I think all four of those things have to be going really well to be the right system that's in place to make sure this goes in the direction we want it to go. And when we're doing it well, it does just that.
Yeah. I really respect tactically how you're doing this to ensure that the people and the technology are integrated really well. And it's something that, at Elmington Property Management at Fortress, we've tried really hard to be extremely thoughtful
Yeah.
in tactically how we deliver features and new solutions and new integrations and those sorts of things. But I have to be honest with you, one of the things that we struggle with the most is the fact that we are just an extremely fast-paced company, Fortress and
Yep.
Elmington, right? And I actually loved the phrase that you said, you integrate or you innovate really fast. And so like you're innovating as you go, like you're just moving really fast. And
Yep.
I love that. And we do that too. And so sometimes those two things can tend to butt heads.
Definitely can.
Like speed versus process.
Yep.
Do you have that struggle?
We do. Of course we do. Yes. One of the things that we've attempted to do, and it kind of goes along with that 4-step process I just mentioned, is that process is happening a bunch of times across our organization because we're not just focused on one thing at one time necessarily. And so every new initiative, every new piece of technology has that same path with different people involved in it to give the feedback, to try it out, to do the kinds of things that we need to do to make final decisions. And yes, at times we have to say, oh, let's hit pause for a second. We might have too many things going on right now. And so it's important to recognize it. It's important when it bubbles up to address it immediately. And yes, even when we do all that, we certainly have that kind of headbutting of the urgency and fast-paced innovation that we want to do and the reality of the day-to-day life and work of the team members that are executing all the things we're trying to do. And so I think one of the biggest characteristics that we can have as leaders is the willingness to admit when, number one, we've screwed up something, and whether that's a bad decision or a bad plan or bad timing, that we've screwed it up. And secondly, the willingness to pull back from that, because if you're willing to admit you're wrong, but still want to push forward, that's really not helping anything. And so you've got to follow that willingness to admit you're wrong or made a mistake or whatever the case may be by changing course. And it's that change of course that I think is more important and helps people recognize that it's not just words, that you're not just, using platitudes to help them feel better about their lot in life. It's really an acknowledgement that, we probably did the wrong thing here. And so because we did, we're going to change course and do something different. And I think that's appreciated.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, but I think that takes a really secure leadership team to be able to do that.
It does for sure. I have stopped saying how long I've been doing this because the numbers get really high. So I just say 20 plus years. And one of the things that I've learned in 20 plus years is that confidence is a critical factor in leadership. I have I would call her a friend now. She's worked for me for years and we stay in touch. And, one of the things that we've talked about a lot with her leadership journey is the fact that she's one of the best operators I've ever met. She knows what she's doing. She's got the information at her fingertips. She knows so many markets and how to operate so many markets. The thing that she has struggled with is confidence. And when you struggle with confidence, your perspective, your knowledge, your experience doesn't come across as strongly as it could or should. And in situations where things are not going exactly the way you want them to, that lack of confidence can prevent you making the right decision at that place. So confidence is absolutely a critical component. We talk about so many characteristics of leadership that are important. I think confidence is right up there because if you don't have that, short of cockiness, short of bravado, but that confidence to do the right thing no matter what, even if it is admitting a mistake and stopping a process that might be a little costly short term, it's just critical to have. It's going to benefit yourself long term. It's going to benefit your organization, your team completely now and in the future.
Yeah, I love that that's the word that you used, confidence, because, there's a lot of words that could be used to being able to admit your mistakes and change course, whether that's like flexibility or vulnerability. There's a lot of different words. I love that you use the word confidence because I think you are so right that it is about having the overall confidence in yourself and knowing that you are here for the right reasons. You're doing the right things. Like you're in this for the right reasons for your team, for the success of the company, so that whatever decision it is that you're making, like, and whatever it is that your gut's telling you to do, it's in that vein. And if you have the confidence in that, then you'll do that thing without second guessing. I really love that.
Yeah, 100%. Confident to me, I love the word vulnerability. It's really hard to be vulnerable if you're not confident. If you're not confident in who you are and what you bring to the table, that vulnerability is either going to be shallow or fake. And so it's just, to me, confidence is at the core of that, and all those other things kind of spring from it. So it's just something I found again over the life of my career that has benefited me a lot. And and again, I want to make sure for myself personally, for anybody that I'm talking to, there's a fine line. Overconfidence is not good. It's much like we talked about earlier. Strength can become a weakness. It's the same thing. Confidence that becomes overconfidence will kill you. So you've got to balance that really well, but confidence is really important.
Yeah. I want to ask, and it's okay if this is, um, if this question doesn't really delve into anything, but the woman that you were talking about, who now you consider her a friend who's worked with you, did you work with her on her confidence, and has that improved over time? And if so, how have you
It
done that?
has. One of my favorite things is to have her send me a text message and say, I did this. Can you imagine me doing that a few years ago? And so it's not only the growth I've seen in her, it's the ability that she has to have the self-awareness to recognize that change. And so absolutely, I've seen it. She's done some things recently in her career to make some decisions she probably would not have made a few years ago because the confidence level wasn't the same. And she's handled those things with grace and with strength. And she's embarking on a new opportunity here soon. And I'm proud of what she's grown to be. And I don't say that condescendingly at all. It's just, it gives me a lot of satisfaction to have watched her grow like that. And, she's going to change the world wherever she goes because she's just that good. And that confidence growth has, I think, helped her get there.
Yeah, I love that. I tell my 14-year-old son all the time, like, we have to be our own best friends because, as you grow up, you realize you have this inner voice. We all have it. Well, the vast majority of us have it. This inner voice that's always talking to us. And we've just come to accept it for what it is. And a lot of times that voice is very negative and it's very second guessing and it's very judgmental. And we've just grown up with it. So we just assume that it just has to be there and it just is what it is. And, when I say all the time, I'm like, if we actually took that voice and put it right here and pretended it was a roommate, we would evict that roommate faster. Right. But we don't take the time to, intentionally reinforce ourselves and share our successes with others, brag to others so that we are able to see it for ourselves, how much we've accomplished and how great we really are, in spite of that crazy little voice that you just need to try to mute as much as possible.
I love your perspective on that. I'm going to change my phrasing because what I say to people is don't be your own worst enemy. I love be your own best friend. I think that's a much more positive way to look at it and say it. So I'm going to borrow that. Hope you don't mind. But I think it's really important. There's enough challenge. There's enough everything negative happening around you. Don't contribute to it. Just be your own best friend. I love that. I'm going to use that a lot for sure.
Yeah. And, I feel like you and I are probably very similar in this. We surround ourselves with such high achievers that, I say all the time, I never have to punish or condemn or make sure that my team knows the mistakes they made. Never. My team punishes themselves way harder than I ever would or could or should punish them. So I don't even have to say anything to them about it. But it's in those moments where you can take a step back and say to them, everyone's going to make mistakes, but right now is when you need to be your own best friend. Because I can say day in and day out that whatever mistake you made, big deal. You're still an incredibly important member of my team. You're here for a reason. I think you're amazing. But if you don't let it go, nothing I said matters.
You're 100% right. And I think that goes back to confidence as well. Individuals have to have that confidence in themselves to say, you know what? Yeah, I screwed up. It doesn't matter. I'm still the best. I'm still doing this thing.
Exactly.
And we're going to make it right. And so, I think that all goes together very, very closely connected for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So I feel guilty. Gosh, we've been chatting now for a minute and I haven't even asked you one of the questions that I swore we were going to get into today when I introed this podcast, which was, we've talked a little bit about strategically and from a process perspective, how RKW and Alfred are focused on the tech and the people and the plan for the future and how they roll it out. But what exactly is Alfred? What is this technology that you guys are working on? What does it do?
Yeah, so Alfred is a great story. Alfred started out as kind of an in-home service organization where, services provided like house cleaning and dog walking and grocery shopping. Individuals could kind of log in, request the services and get it. And it wasn't involved in multifamily specifically. It was just kind of a broad-based, service-based organization in business. And of course, COVID hit, and
Yeah.
as you'll remember from COVID, not a lot of people wanted people coming into their houses
Yeah.
a lot at that time. And so
Yeah.
they made the decision to kind of refocus and rethink and adjust their strategy and plan to focus on building out an application that could be more broadly based and applied. And so they built an app that is a great resident app that I'll talk about a little bit more in a second, but started talking to multifamily providers and really decided that could be an opportunity for us to really get into a larger space that at least initially wouldn't require us to be in people's homes. They could use the app to request what they wanted, do things they wanted to do, but not do other things they didn't want to do.
Yeah.
And so they started down that path and got in that world. And so after doing that for a couple of years, the growth was going really well, but they decided, if we really want to grow our platform and see what it's about, what we can really do, we should scale this thing. And so that's where the RKW acquisition came into play. And so they bought a platform that gave them access to a much larger community and communities of people and assets that they could partner with. And it's been fantastic growth since then. And it's given us a chance to not just roll it out to a broader base of clientele and customers, but it's given us a chance to try things, innovate, see what works here, what works there, to expand the options within the app and within the application, the service that's being provided. So now it's an all-encompassing, I would say, kind of resident app on steroids kind of concept. So you can go into the app and do the basic things like submit a work order. You can pay your rent. You can communicate with the office. You can communicate with other residents in the community. You can also, in addition, you can participate in specials and offerings that we have developed with local, regional, and national vendors and
Oh,
retailers
yeah.
across the country. You can take advantage of that. You can participate in the marketplace where you can buy things, you can buy services, you can buy items through the app. You can be notified of local events that are happening. There's just any number of things that we're still adding to it all the time. And just recently, we're talking about the option of, hey, could we maybe have them be able to order their dinner through our app now?
Yeah.
You've got Uber Eats, you got things like that. But if we're a one-stop shop, maybe they come to our app and can do the same kinds of things and order it to their community. And because they live in the community, they could then tie in their access code to give to the
Yep.
Uber driver, so there's all kinds of things we're working on in that regard. And so it's kind of evolved over time as very, very smart people on that team have decided we can do different things and have better ways to apply our technology, our services to a group of people that need and want those very same things.
Yeah, I love the evolution of the product over time. A story I share from time to time. I don't know that I've ever done it this publicly, so there's that. But when we first started building Fortress, I actually we passed a hat, raised around, and I actually started by hiring someone who was a friend of one of our largest investors, who he was like, oh, he knows technology, he's great. Well, don't ever bring a friend in. But anyway, obviously this didn't work out. But we ended up hiring a team of engineers, and about 6 months later and about $350,000 later, I was like, oh, this isn't working. Like, we're going to have to throw all this away and start over. And I had my head hung very low when I walked into my largest investor's office and said we had to do this. But I really think like being so aware of what is and isn't working and like shifting strategies and then finding other ways to evolve the product, I think is really incredible. And I love the focus on the resident, whether that's the resident getting food in or accessing their building or having a marketplace where they can buy and sell things amongst the residents. I think that's brilliant. And it speaks a lot actually to your thoughts on how we stop this race to the bottom. So I'd love to ask you a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I think all of it ties together. Our mantra is high tech, high touch. I mean, that's who we want to be. Technology is a critical component, but it's the customer service. It's the Ritz Carlton experience that really makes a difference. We can provide all the technology in the world, but if our residents don't feel like we care about them and we'll go the extra mile and provide what they want provided when they want it provided in the right way, it's going to get lost. And so that's our focus. We want to make sure that it's not just about the coolest technology, the coolest new application, the new option they have within the app. It's not just that. That's important, but it's not just that. It's that human connection that you can get. So for example, within the program at Alfred now, there is what we call community, and that is a part of the app or a part of the program that allows us to provide and produce and offer resident activities and options for them to get together and interact with each other and do fun things within the community and things like that. So we're trying to continue to respond to what residents are telling us, either directly or indirectly by their behavior, and offering them things that are difference makers. And I think that's the difference between just doing things that we want to do because we think they're cool and doing things that our customers want us to do. And I think just that slight perspective change makes a really big difference and creates that kind of experience for a resident that we want them to have. So it's that, and it's also, of course, making sure that the team members we hire at the property level, the regional level, at the executive level, and everywhere in between that have resident service, customer service at the forefront of everything we care about. Because whether we're thinking about who we're hiring for a community or whether we're thinking about the next development within the application or the program, it's all focused on what the resident wants, what the resident's desires are, and what will make the resident experience better. And the challenge with that, of course, is people are people and everybody doesn't want the same thing. So the flexibility to do a lot of different things so that we can meet the needs of as many people as possible is part of that too. So it's really tying those two things together that makes us different and makes us unique. And I think will continue to allow us to grow, not just in our services and the quality of those services, but in our numbers as well, which we want to do too.
I cannot tell you how much I like the difference makers, like building the difference makers. I think that's so important because right now, this is no slam to all the AI technology out there. I'm really not trying to slam them. But I feel like all the AI technology that's out there for multifamily is all doing a lot of the same thing right now. And I cannot tell you how many people I know who live in apartment communities who are like, I don't want to fucking talk to AI. Like they know it's AI.
Person, please.
And they immediately disconnect and they're like, I'll just go shoot an email. Like as soon as they send that text and understand they're engaging with a bot, they're like, oh, I'm done. And it's like, okay, so AI is really cool and it's doing some really great things. But what sort of difference is it making in the lives of your residents if they're like subverting that process and trying to find another way to get to you? So I love that.
That's the critical point, I think. And that's the flexibility I'm talking about because yes, there are some people, I don't want to talk to anybody. I want to do it all online myself. And so, I'll talk to that bot. I'll do what I need to do to avoid having to deal with people. We want that option to be there for those people. And we know there are people who want to talk to you, who want to deal with you face to face, talk to you on the phone, whatever that might look like to them. They want to deal with a real live human being, and we've got to have that for them as well. And so it's that balance that I'm worried that we're going to miss long term if we don't really dial it in a bit. Because to your point, AI is so cool. It's blowing my mind the number of things it can continue to do, seem like on a day-to-day basis. And if we let that continue too far, we're going to miss the human component completely. And as much as it might be a perceived cost savings or more efficient, we're going to lose the effectiveness of it. And that people orientation is going to be there. We manage steel, bricks, sticks, all concrete, all those things for this real estate thing, but it's still a people business. And if we don't figure out how to balance that out and deal with people the way they want to be dealt with and worked with, then we're going to miss the boat completely.
Yeah, I agree. I want to ask another question about something you said. So you said you're identifying these difference makers by what the residents are telling you directly or indirectly. Are you directly obtaining thoughts on the system and on the platform and the experience from your residents today?
Yes, 100%.
Oh, wow.
So we do resident surveys, of course. We offer feedback opportunities through the app as well. And so residents can tell us what they like, what they don't like, what they'd love to see changed. And that's all part of the feedback loop that we use to make our processes, our initiatives, our technology better on a regular basis. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's fantastic. And, I couldn't agree with you more about the Ritz Carlton-level experience. It's not necessarily about the actual location of the hotel, right? Like, I mean, some Ritz Carltons are amazing and some have been around for a long time now.
Of course.
But it's the experience, it's the way that people make you feel when you're there. And I think that's transformative. I've argued for years, look, right or wrong, it doesn't really matter. I get it. Like I'm not an economist, although I would fancy myself one from time to time. But I've argued for years that this idea of creating the pricing matrix for my community based on what's going on in the communities around me is crazy, because like I've, most of the time we've been successful at this. There are times we failed before too, but most of the time, we are so strategic about who we hire on those sites, and our team members create a feeling at our locations, especially our affordable locations. We are very, very specific about who we hire and the types of personalities and how they make people feel. And
Yep.
I can tell you that like we have had C assets that have been able to charge more in rent than a B plus asset across the street if people feel a certain way
Yeah.
when they're in your community. So I think that Ritz Carlton feeling is game changing.
Yeah, I think the mistake people make sometimes is they tie the Ritz Carlton experience to the price level of the asset they're at, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a huge mistake.
Agreed.
Um, of course, A plus luxury assets, you want that. Of course you do. You
Yeah.
also want it at your B assets and your C assets. You want the same perception, the same feeling for your residents at any asset you're managing. And I think
Yeah.
that's a differentiator. And if you're focused on that, then I think you can be less concerned about what your competitor is doing and focus more on what you're doing the right way. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's one of those situations where I don't ever want us to be our own worst enemy, but I want us to be our best competitor. I want us to
Yeah.
be competing against ourselves. What can we do better to move the needle ourselves, irrespective of what our competition is doing? I want to beat the market. And so
Mm-hmm.
whatever they're doing, fine, great. But if we're doing it the right way, that won't matter nearly as much. And so focusing on
Yeah.
internal, I use the concept of the mirror all the time. We need to be looking in the mirror first.
Yep.
If we want to change something, if we want to improve something, if we want to do something different or better, the mirror is where we start, because that's
Yeah.
the only thing we can control 100%. And so
Yeah.
if we're focused in that direction, then we're going to do the right thing most of the time.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I love your emphasis on the fact that this isn't about the price point or even the quality of the asset. It's really about the feeling that you create. And, one of my favorite books has a story in it about how it's like a five-star restaurant, one of the very few five-star restaurants in New York, where they really empowered the service team to
Mm-hmm.
do anything they could to make um, the um, the people who were in the restaurant feel just incredible about their experience.
Yep.
And so this one couple came in and they were about to fly out the next morning, and they said, the one thing that they really regretted is that they weren't able to have like a street hot dog. And so the server sent what they had people who were on dispatch who were like waiting to do whatever it was the servers needed them to do. And so he
Right.
sent someone to go buy like an $8 street hot dog and bring it back, and like they presented it on a really nice plate and they served it to him, and it changed, it was like a game changer for them. And it was $8, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not about the
Yep.
value necessarily in the actual asset or in the thing. It's the feeling that's
Yeah.
created
Yeah,
around
I
it.
went to a restaurant one time with my wife. It was anniversary, and she loves cheesecake. Don't eat a lot because it's not the best for you, but just loves cheesecake. And they were kind of known for their cheesecake. It wasn't Cheesecake Factory, so whoever's watching this, don't think it was Cheesecake Factory. But they had great cheesecake. The night we were there, they were out. They didn't have it, and so of course disappointment. And she's not a complainer by any means, but you can tell her face.
Yeah, of
Oh,
course.
and I guess the waiter realized it, noticed it, and he sent someone to one of their competitor restaurants, not in their
Oh,
chain, a competitor, and bought a cheesecake and brought it back to her. I mean, you think we've been back there? Yeah, we've been back there,
that's
because it's
amazing.
little things like that that
Yep.
make a huge difference. It's almost unquantifiable,
The feeling.
because the
Yep.
huge impact that can be held or had
Yeah.
with such a small investment, of your time and energy and finances. So
Yeah.
just can't say enough about the importance of that.
Oh, that's such a good story too. I absolutely love that. So I actually have a question for you,
Okay.
Kevin, and I hope I hope I'm not putting you in a bad spot, but I'm so intrigued now because I did not know about your time off where you actually worked as a consultant, and during
Mhm.
some of that time, you worked with groups on bringing management in house. And after having learned that, I now have a question because I think it aligns well with what you're doing at Alfred, but also helps especially some of our listeners out there who are owners and
Yep.
or currently operating, because right now you're selling third party, which is something that I
That's
do
right.
too. And running Elmington, there have been many years where we've brought companies who had in-house management, they've taken it out and made it
Yep.
third party with us. But what advice would you give to groups, or I guess how would you look at the pros and cons of managing in-house versus utilizing third parties?
It's interesting. I worked with three separate groups, and in my first conversation with each of them, I said, I'm not recommending this. This is not what I'm recommending. If this is the path you want to take, then we can talk about how to do that. But I'm not recommending it because, and I list, depending on the circumstance, I listed a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
You know, I think that, the benefits of managing in-house is the complete control over everything. I think that obviously is a positive thing. I think that if you have the scale, it can be at least a break even, but the margins in property management aren't that large. And so it's
Rough.
really tough to have the scale that's large enough to make money. And so if you're not, for example, if you're not developing as much because the economy's turned south, and so
Yeah.
your development fees and other revenues you make on the development acquisition side aren't coming in, and you're relying on your property management business to support and sustain your organization, if you don't have the scale, you're not going to do it. It's just not
Yeah.
going to happen. And so I think that in general terms, unless you do have that scale, it makes sense to go with a third party property manager because you don't have to worry about that side of the house. You don't have to worry about the overhead. You don't have to worry about the rules and the regulations.
Mhm.
You find a group that you trust and you work with them and let them kind of execute your strategy for your assets and for your developments.
Yep.
That's my advice across the board. We also don't own anything. We only third party manage. And I think one of the benefits to that is none of our clients have to worry about us buying a deal across the street from them and competing with them.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important concept as well, because I've been in that situation where we own and we managed, and we had competing properties that we owned and we managed. And I like to think I do the right thing. It's hard sometimes when you're
Yeah.
kind of feeling that pull because, we're on the same team over here and we got to make sure this deal gets the best people and the best resources and the best of everything else. And sometimes that means maybe the third party client doesn't get quite as good. And that's really
Yeah.
not how we want to make it work. We want every client of ours to feel like they're getting the best from us. And
Yeah.
so that's my recommendation. But yes, when I was between full-time gigs, I did work with companies, and I'll tell you, of the three, only one actually did it, because as we went through things, they kind of saw things the different way, which is good,
Mhm.
but it's not as easy as people think it is. I think is the message I would want people to know. And if you've got a good third-party partner, then stick with them. They're gonna do you right way.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And you mentioned this word scale a few times, so I'm going to ask, what
Mhm.
is that scale for you? What do you think? Number do you think makes sense?
That's a great question. So for me, my experience tells me that to kind of get to that comfortable break even point, you need to be between 15 and 20,000 units.
Yeah.
Um, and not to say that you can't make it work at 12 or whatever the number is, but it's really tough and it's
Yeah.
really thin. And I think sometimes the people that are working for you at that time are going to be stretched a lot. So
Yeah.
15 to 20, I think, is a pretty good number where you
I agree
can
with you.
at least generally consistently break even, maybe make a
Mhm.
little money, but margins are just not going to be that great. I think once you get over the 20 number, it starts to get a little more comfortable and you're able to do a few more things. I think you're able to invest in innovation a little bit more. I think you're able to
Yeah.
do things that you weren't able to do at the smaller numbers. And so, when we're looking at our organization and where we're trying to grow, I don't know that we have a specific number in mind. And we certainly don't care to be Gray Star by any means, but we want to grow for the primary reason, in addition to the revenue side, is I want growth to be about providing opportunities for people. I know that in my career, I've lost great talent because we didn't have anywhere for them to go. And so I want to grow an organization large enough that yes, we're comfortable making money. We're doing a good job in that regard. If we have investors, they're happy, all those kinds of things. I also want to make sure that my leasing manager knows that they're going to have a property manager opportunity soon when they need it. And that my property manager knows they're going to have an area manager, a regional manager opportunity in their career with us if they want that and not have to go somewhere else. So it's really about, again, that people perspective that I think we're taking to add to the conversation that we have internally all the time about why we do what we do. And that's an answer for growth as well on our side.
I love that. I think that I agree with your 15 to 20K target so much, and I've had so many owners who've talked about bringing operations in-house, and they're like, well, the property management company doesn't need to make money. It's fine. And I'm like, yeah, but if you're less than 5,000 units, you are losing money, massive money, if you want to have the right talent.
That's right.
Or you're going to end up managing it yourself. So, which is not your primary focus, which is not what's bringing you in the most money or success, right? Your focus has been acquiring and developing assets, and that's where your value lies. But unless you have a large enough unit count, you won't be able to afford the great people who are going to run those assets really, really well without
100%.
you needing to be involved day to day. So
that's right.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think the 15 to 20 generally gets you at about break even in a really comfortable way where you feel like your assets are being run really well. And that's still really tough. And I do agree. I mean, I see both sides of it. I really do. I've been a part of groups that have been owner operators and also the third party fee management. So I see both sides of it. But I think it is really important to do that study, and also hugely admirable of you, because that consulting gig, when you consulted them out of doing their own business, you probably walked yourself away from a pretty big fee.
Yeah, my time with them ended sooner than it would have otherwise. Yes, for sure. Yeah, no doubt about that. But again, I'm a believer, if you do the right thing, even if it impacts you negatively today, down the road it'll come back to you. So it's not a hard thing for me to do that, even if it impacts me financially today, because I know it'll come back.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Well, Kevin, I have enjoyed this conversation so much.
I have too.
Yeah, it's been so great, and I actually had a few little tangents that I was not aware we were going to go on, but really, really enjoyed.
Surprise.
Yeah, really good. But I do have two last questions before I let you go, if that's okay. So the first question I ask everyone, because one day I think we're gonna compile all these into a book, like a coffee table book, that I'd love for you to share a story about your time in property management.
Ooh, there's a lot of them. So there's a bunch of stories that are positive, heartwarming, and all that kind of stuff, where the resident brings you donuts or fudge or whatever. There's great people stories. I'm thinking about a story specifically, though, where it reminded me you have to laugh. And sometimes there's no other option. You just have to laugh. This was a property that we managed. This has been probably 15 years ago or so, in the Baltimore, Maryland area.
Okay.
And we had taken over a property and delinquency was high, and so we were working hard to get evictions moved through. And if you know Prince George County in the Baltimore, Maryland area, it's not easy to do.
Okay.
But we were making progress.
Okay.
And we had a resident who had quite a large sum that he owed, and he knew it was hard to do. He wasn't interested in paying us, and of course that breeds frustration. Or we're going to get this. And so we finally did. We got all the paperwork done, got the judge to agree, got the writ, everything was scheduled. So on the day that it was scheduled, the sheriff came out, and in that area there was a group of people that came with them to actually move the resident out of the apartment. And when everybody arrived, the resident was standing out on his fourth floor balcony, looking down, just smoking a cigarette, smiling at us. And so the crew went up, started taking all of his furniture down 4 flights of stairs. There's no elevators in this building, so down 4 flights of stairs. About 15 minutes into that process, what we found out later was 2 friends of his drove up with 2 trucks, and as we were bringing it down 4 flights of stairs, the two friends and this resident put it on the truck and just put it on the truck and put it on the truck. And when we finished about an hour later, the resident looked at all of us and said, I appreciate you guys helping me move. And in the moment, just steam and, fire. But as we talked about it later, we said to ourselves, pretty clever. I mean, pretty clever. It's got to give it to him. He had it all right. He didn't have to take anything down the stairs. He just had to wait at the bottom and pick it up when we brought it down. So
oh my
it was one
goodness.
of those things where it just reminded me, you know what? Sometimes you just have to laugh.
Yep. I love it. That's such a good story. That's really unique. I've never heard of those before.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. Okay, well, I was like so intrigued the whole time too. I was like, where is this going? I was actually, honest to God, I was ready for the man to be standing out on his fourth floor balcony smoking a cigarette, like naked or something. I was like, what?
That would have been a nice twist for sure.
But that's so good. Oh goodness. Okay, so then my last question for you, which I'm very excited for this answer actually. Okay. But our listeners really love our book recommendations. So I'd love to know, do you have a book that you'd like to recommend to our listeners?
Ooh, I do. I love books.
Same.
If it's okay, I didn't ask permission, but I have a couple I want to give you.
Yes, absolutely. Please.
Two of them might be more well-known, and maybe your listeners are already either reading them or heard about them. The first is Simon Sinek, Start With Why. I love Sinek's work. Everything he does, I like it a lot. But Start With Why is just kind of a core belief system for me. And I think it's really important in how we manage ourselves, how we deal with other people, how we lead. I think the why question just doesn't get answered enough. And when we answer the right way, it does wonders. Kim Scott, Radical Candor is another one that I
have
think
not
is
read that yet.
Absolutely critical. Truth is truth. And we need to be willing to say it. We need to be willing to say it the right way. Yeah. And sometimes we pull punches. We don't say what we really mean because we're worried about hurting feelings. And it's important as leaders that we find the ways to say the right things the right way so that change happens. And so Radical Candor is another one that I would say, absolutely read that one. That'll make a difference in your leadership life for sure.
Love it.
The other one's a little newer. The author is not newer. His name is Patrick Lencioni.
Okay. Oh,
he wrote 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, if you've read that one. But he has written a book recently called The Motive. And like other books of his, it's kind of a parable where in this book, it's 2 CEOs having a conversation where one of the CEOs is struggling and trying to figure out how to turn things around. And the other CEO, who happens to be a competitor of his, is giving him tough feedback, which includes, you don't know your why. You don't know your motives for doing what you're doing. And so it's really eye-opening and reminds us of the critical need to ensure that we're doing things for the right reasons and that those reasons include the people with whom we work and whom we serve. So those are 3 I would recommend highly.
Okay, I love that. I did not know that Lencioni had a new book. His parables are so great. He has another one about, I cannot remember the name of it off the top of my head, but about CEOs actually. But The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team is a phenomenal book and such 100%. An easy read the way he does it.
I love his style. Yeah.
Yes. So I will absolutely read The Motive. So I really appreciate those recommendations.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy to do it.
And honestly, Kevin, I said it from the beginning. I was really, really grateful that you decided to take the time to do this with us today. This has been a phenomenal conversation and episode. And so I'm really, really grateful. So thank you for doing this with me.
I've enjoyed it thoroughly. I feel honored to have been asked to be here and enjoyed the conversation a lot. So thank you very much.